Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our Stretch and Flow. Happy Tuesday. If this is your first time taking our Stretch and Flow class, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back and Happy New Year's, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our first class of the year for our Tuesday Stretch and Flow here in just a minute. All right. And we'll go with a... Awesome. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is your first time taking this class. My name is Nick. I'm located at the Palo Alto Fitness Center. We have this class every Tuesday at noon now for our Stretch and Flow. We also have one on Thursdays as well. The focus of this month is going to be overall a full body range of motion. So we're going to be targeting neck, shoulders, spine, hip, and then down into knees and ankles. So those are the main movers that we'll be focusing on this month. And so you'll see a little difference in between classes here. So for today's class, you don't need any equipment. We're just going to be in a standing position here. We'll go ahead and start off with some neck movement. So as I'm standing tall, I want to focus on keeping my shoulders down and back. So I don't want to be hunching forward here. And as I'm here, we're going to work with some neck movements here. So first one we're going to focus on is extension of our neck here. So using your chin as a guide, I'm going to point my chin down like this. And where we want to feel a stretch is the back of our neck here. And then going into the opposite direction, we're going to lift that chin up into extension. And then from here, we're going to repeat nice and slow, bringing that chin down and up. So to test our range of motion in the neck, I like to do this movement first, just to see where we are at. Often do we move the neck in this position. You take it nice and slow. Keep breathing. Let's do that one more time. Taking it nice and slow, just preparing our neck. Getting muscles loose and cover. Next up, we're going to go with our low flexion. So how this one works, I'm just going to tilt my head towards one direction right here. Same thing, we want to keep those shoulders down and back. We're not putting any weight on today. We're just focusing on this movement first as I bring it back to the center. Slowly switch to the opposite side. Bring it back to the center, and then we will repeat that nice and slow. Seeing if we see any differences between one side versus the other. If we do, after class, you can always try this stretch a few more times in your day. Probably notice some progression throughout the day as you do this a few more times. Nice work. Let's do that one more time per side. As we keep our torso upright, keep those shoulders down and back. Awesome. And then let's finish off with the neck with rotation. And how this one works, I still want to keep those shoulders down and back. From here, I'm just going to look in one direction like this. This is a good test to see how stiff we are on one side versus the other as well, especially if you were sleeping in an awkward position. This is a nice one to add into your routine. Back to the center, slowly switch towards the other direction. So my goal is to keep my shoulders down and back, using the chin, my guide, trying to look from left to right. And let's repeat that a few more times. Keep breathing, nice and slow. And recover back to the center. So those are some of our main areas that we're going to focus on the neck. You'll see those pretty often in our classes here. Let's move into the shoulders now. So we'll start off with one shoulder at a time, standing upright. We're going to go with flexion and extension of our shoulder. From here, keeping the arm straight, we're just going to raise that arm up as high as we can. So it's all right if we start here. The goal is to keep the torso still, so we don't want to arch that lower back or move the hips too much. And then just slowly raising up with one arm to start. And then from here, we're going to go into Extension, that's where we slowly bring our arm back and see how far we can go. So if we're here, that's fine. We're just trying to see how far back we can go without moving our body too much. And that's the movement, everyone. Let's go ahead and try that nice and slow. Bring that arm up. Slowly bring that arm down. Right now, we are just promoting movement and blood flow into our shoulder joint. We're testing our range of motion. This is going to give you an idea of what kind of workout you can expect today. So if we are limited on that range of motion, may want to spend a bit more time on just practicing our movements, pressing movements, pulling movements. If we're looking good, then that's when you might have a day where you can push your workout a little bit more with intensity and weight. Nice work. Let's go ahead and pause and we'll try on the other side here. So I'm still standing upright. I just use this hand as a little bit of a guide. With this arm here, I'm raising towards the sky. Slowly bring it down and back. And you notice I'm just keeping my arm to my side, about shoulder width apart, so I'm not trying to angle out too much. So this is our basic flexion and extension of our shoulder joint here. A great way to stretch the shoulder just by doing this simple movement here. What is the, what happens when we don't have flexibility in these muscles and mobility in our joints is we're unable to get that arm above our head. And that can, lead into a bunch of difficulties later on. So we just want to make sure that we have healthy shoulders. Let's do that one more time. And recover. Now to finish off with the shoulder, we'll keep it simple today, flexion and extension. We'll go with both arms today. So you have two options for this one. You can keep your arms pendant like this as we raise up and down. If you need a little bit more leverage, you can use your hands together like this, and it helps you to pull a little bit more like this. So either or, we're just going to bring our arms here and slowly go into flexion and extension. What we want to focus on still is keeping that torso a straight line, so we do not want to overarch that lower back, move our hips. Nice work. Let's do that 2 more times, just seeing how high up you can reach those arms. For a tall person, maybe you're touching the ceiling already. Bring the arms down and back. And recover. Nice work, everyone. So that was a great way to start off some shoulder movements, just promote some blood flow. You can do that at your desk before bed, just moving that shoulder joint a little bit more. Let's move into the spine next. So the 2 ways you can look at your spine, of course, that's your entire posterior chain in your back, is flexion and extension also of your spine. So what does extension look like? Well, extension is basically where you bring your shoulders down back, and I'm extending my spine. So I'm lifting up my spine, keeping that torso. So when we talk about posture, that's what we want. So a few things we can do here is we're gonna bring our hands behind the head here. If you notice, your elbows and your head is tilting down like this. Our goal here is to bring the elbows back, lift your head and chest up towards the sky. That's one of the easiest ways to practice extension of your spine. So we're just gonna hold here and breathe. Once again, if you notice your neck is down and elbows are forward, try your best to pull those elbows back, lift your chest and head up, and hold here. Proper extension of our spine helps us to prevent injuries with posture. There's a lot of things you can do in the gym to help strengthen those muscles. And of course, these stretching movements are great for just keeping your limber not too stiff, right? So we're just holding and breathing. Just trying to keep my chest up, spine extended. This is what extension looks like in our spine. And slowly recover. Now, flexion of the spine, we go in the opposite direction, and we still want proper flexion in our body, by the way, although we don't do it too often. It's important to just have flexion. That just creates stability and overall proportion in our spine. So how I like to start off with is I'm going to give myself a nice big bear hug like this. You can go wrap your hand down. And as you can see right now, you see my upper back is just, it has a normal curve to the spine. What I will do here is just flex my spine. It looks like this. I'm just going to round my upper back, and that's it. I'm just going to hold here and breathe. I like to imagine I'm just trying to open and expand my back. And I'm just taking a few breaths in and out here. And we'll slowly relax. Let's go back into extension. So remember, torso is now upright. Elbows are going to be pointing back and out. So this is the opposite of what we did earlier. So this is extension. I'm extending my spine. Sometimes you even hear cracks in the back when you get into full extension. And I'm just taking a few breaths in and out. From here, let's go into our protraction. So I'm going to give myself a nice big hug. You can switch arms if you like. And then I'm going to round my upper back. This is flexion. Back to extension. So my hands behind my head. Lift your chest up. Let's go one more time back into flexion. So I will bring my hands around. And slowly recover. Nice work, everyone. All right. So let's go ahead and move into the lower body. We have about 5 more minutes. We'll focus on hip here, and then we'll go a little into kneeing the legs to finish off class. So of course, this is our hip joint here. Same movements, flexion and extension of the hip. So what does that look like? Anytime that I bend my hip, that's flexion. And then anytime I stand up, that's extensions. What does flexion look like? If I were to bend at the hip here, I'm already flexing at the hip. It's a really hard one for a lot of people to do. It adds into strengthening movements and stretching as well. So what I'm going to do is a way to kind of see what that hip feels like. So I'm going to push my hips back and imagine you're reaching first progression towards your knees. If you're feeling pretty good here, keep bending at your hip. Imagine I'm pushing hips back, then reaching for maybe my shins. And if you're still feeling pretty good here, I'm still bending at the hip, reaching for maybe toes or the floor like this. So we're just going to hold here and breathe. Once again, you can reach for knees. Second progression would be the shins, and then third progression would be towards the floor here. And we're breathing, trying to relax. If it's a little too much on the hold, you can always stand up, catch your breath, and then get back into the position. You can go maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds on and off, either or. Bending at my hip. It's a great one also to stretch out the hamstrings. That's the back part of your leg. Loosen up the lower back as well. When we learn to bend at the hip properly, we're able to do a lot of things. Squatting, jumping, boot camp style classes. You see a lot of that in every kind of activity we do. We'll slowly come on up and catch our breath. Nice work, everyone. Let's finish off today with a knee flexion and extension. That is going to target now stretching the quad here. So the hip one, that helps to target a bit more of the hamstrings. Let's focus a little bit more on the front here. So what I'm going to do is feel free to grab onto a chair, a table, or a wall. We're just going to go with a quad pull here. So how this one looks is as I'm standing, my goal is to grab onto my ankle and then pull it behind my body. So it looks like this. Now, this one can be pretty challenging sometimes, just grabbing onto that leg. So you can always grab your pant leg here, the shoe. If it's a little hard to grab right now, if you have a chair nearby, you could just put your foot on top of your chair right here, and then just practice holding this position. Can we bend that knee like that? So once we're here, go ahead and grab, and we're just gonna hold. As we get into more of these classes, I'll show you some more progressions. So we have some like first, second, and third, right? But we're just trying this one out first, stretching for class, see how we're doing. This one is great for stretching out your quad here, which sometimes gets pretty stiff in our seated positions, especially into the front part of this hip here. Once again, balance-wise, you can always grab onto a wall, a chair, something to help support if needed. And I'm just keeping that torso upright. We'll go ahead and relax and finish off on the other side to finish off today's class. So once again, I'm here. If I need something to grab onto, I'll place a hand. Now, if you are already grabbing that foot and you're able to hold, a couple things to look for. If your knee is in front of you like this, our goal is to get that knee directly under the hip here. We're keeping everything else still, right? I'm not overarching that lower back. So that's your first goal. And then if your leg is outside of your body, like this, we should keep it underneath as if I have no leg there. So how long should we hold these stretches, by the way, if you are trying to do a routine like this on your own with your team, family, or friends? 30 seconds to a minute is usually a good amount. I prefer frequency on these compared to like one long bout of holding something like this for like 5 minutes. So if I did something like this maybe 2 times in a day, maybe once every single day, that's pretty good frequency, right? I usually prefer that. I find a bit more effectiveness doing that. We'll slowly recover back to the center. And then to finish off, as we're standing up tall, remember our posture. So extension of the spine, shoulders are down and back. Practice this in your seating positions because over time, we'll just notice this happen. Extension, right? Lifting the chest, shoulders down and back. Great job today, everyone. That was our stretch and flow class for today. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next Tuesday. This class is now at noon Pacific. But have a great day, and we'll see you at the next class. Take care, everyone. All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Glad you enjoyed.